Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. And welcome to a Worth the Read video where I talk about new book releases from the last month or two, and I tell you my opinion about them and whether or not you should pick them up. Now, I have a stacked list of books for this video. I was not expecting to have so many books, but I just so happened to read a lot of new releases in the last month or two. So with all that being said, I have a long list. Let's go ahead and jump into the first book. And that is going to be Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. So if you guys watched one of my weekly vlogs, it was my last one in August, I think. I read this book. I got an ALC of it from Elsie Silver's PR company. And let me tell you, I was not surprised because for me, Elsie Silver is a very beloved author. I love all of her works. I love how she writes. I like that she puts a lot of different elements into it. But this one was a 5-star in the way that like Wild Love was not, it was a 5-star, but it's different. This one was definitely more emotional, definitely more, what's the word, just like, I connected with Skylar so much, and I feel like if you're a woman that's going to read this book, you probably will connect with her as well. She just goes through such a journey of breaking out from underneath her parents who happen to be her manager and writing her own music and being comfortable in her own skin and figuring out who she is and what she wants and all of this stuff. And I personally really love that. I fell in love with this book. I teared up in this book. I talk about this a lot in that weekly vlog. I go on like a 10-minute rant about how much I love this book and what it means. I just feel like Elsie does the single dad trope so well, and I love that this whole series is single dads because they're all totally different. But in this case, West is co-parenting his 2 kids with his ex-wife, and they have a great co-parenting relationship, and you see that. But I love the kids. The kids bring something just so special to the story, and she just doesn't put them aside. Like, they're very integrated into the story. They're a very big part of the story, and yeah, they just mean a lot to Skylar as well. If you have the chance to listen to the audiobook, I highly suggest it because there is 2 performances of 2 songs that Skylar writes in the book, and they are beautiful. She had like a someone different than the 2 narrators perform them, and they were beautiful and amazing. And that made me tear up at the end. Like, one of the songs was perfection, and I loved it. So, would I recommend? Yes. Is it worth the hype? Absolutely. The next book I have is another single dad romance, and that is Beating Heart by Laura Pavlov. So this is Laura Pavlov's 4th book, I think, in this series. We see Nash in the previous 3 books in this series, and we see his son Cutler, aka Beefcake. That's what he gets known by. That's what he wants to be. That's what his name is. And everyone calls him that because that's what he wants to go by. And the found family in this series is what really gets me. Like, it's different from Wild Eyes in a single dad sense because he's already established with his kids. His kids are great. He doesn't have an ex-wife that's coming in the picture that he has to co-parent with. It's nothing like that. But when his son gets like an asthma attack, you see at the end of the last book, there is a new female doctor in town, and he's like, I do not like this woman. I want you, the original doctor, to take care of my kid. Like, I don't trust her. Who is she? She's an outsider. She's not from this town, all that other stuff. And she actually happens to be his neighbor. She rents the house next to him. And it's so interesting. Her story, her family, which, if I'm not mistaken, is opening up a new series for Laura Pavlov. I think her brothers. She has 3 or 4 brothers, and then like 2 cousins, guy cousins, that like one's a single dad, and then one's a hockey player, one's a football player. She has a lot of stuff going on, and I was so excited for all like the main male characters and see what female characters they're attached to. But yeah, I really like this one. It wasn't a perfect 5-star. It was a 4.5 star because Loving Romeo was a 5-star for me, and that was the first book in this series. But I did really love this book. I love the single dad epicness that this book is. The next book I want to talk about is Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. Every time I try to say that freaking name, I always get tongue twisted with it. So with this book, I went into it not thinking I was going to like it. I'm not going to lie. I went into this book thinking I was going to hate this book, that I was going to not really like it. It was not going to hit the same way as Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, which was a book that came out last year and I read and loved by her because it's second chance. But this one, there was something so swoon-worthy, so romantic, so just the reason why I love reading books. Now, I understand that everyone who picks up this book is not going to fall in love with it. This is a very different type of love story in the way that like our 2 characters are like tiptoeing around each other a little bit, and it's it's at the beginning, it's a very physical. It's like they have an attraction to each other, but he has this like underlying attraction for her mind, for the way she thinks about music, for the way she plays music, and all of this stuff like that. So it has that undercurrent. It's just like so just romantic. Like this type of book is the reason why I personally read romance books. I personally love romance books like this. And I just love watching people fall in love in any type of messy, angsty way, and this just so happens to be that. So yeah, I loved it. It was so sensual. That's also a good word, sensual, with the musicians and the orchestra, him playing cello, her playing violin, them teaching each other things about music and stuff like that. I don't know. I just really enjoyed this one. So yes, this one is also worth the hype. The next book I have is Passenger Princess by Morgan Elizabeth. So I've seen this book all around TikTok. It's on the spine. This one is like her special edition she had at Steamy Lit. It was actually before the book came out, so I picked it up. And I read it a little while after I got back from Steamy Lit. And I will say this is not my favorite Morgan Elizabeth. And I don't know if it's because like I've been reading really emotional books and this is not emotional in that way. Their romance in this book is very physical. It starts off very physical. You see that they have a very big attraction to each other, and that's really why they kind of like fall for each other. I say quote unquote fall, but there's nothing about her, nothing about him other than the physical attraction they have towards each other that makes them like really fall in love. Obviously he sees how caring she is after she wins this pageant. She's going on tour, he's her bodyguard, and you know, she's taking care of all these different, you know, people. She's looking at all these women-owned businesses and hyping them up and all that stuff, which is so nice, and I love that. This book is like a girl's girl book. Like Ava in this book is such a girl's girl. Like she wants to hype women up, and she is that type of woman. It's when some people are like pushing her down, like trash talking her, she goes up to them and like, that's not the way you do it. Like, what are you doing? How are you gonna, you're a woman, we should not be tearing each other down. Like, what are you doing? So I did like that part about it. And I did end up giving this book 3.5 stars. Like, it was cute, but like compared to 'Tis the Season for Revenge by Morgan Elizabeth, which was my favorite book by her, it's a 5-star, this one didn't hit the same way. So this would be a maybe, or I would say pass on it. The next book I have is The Hunted Heir by Holly Renee. So this is the second book in the Veiled Kingdom series, and this series has been hyped up so much. The first book I actually really enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars, and this book, like the more I sit with it, the more I'm like, I don't think it was a 3-star read. I think it was more like a 2.5 star read for me. I can't tell you what happened in this book. Actually, I can. I can tell you. They ran around the woods a little bit. Him chasing her, his dad chasing her, the kingdom chasing her, her running around with a friend that she thought was, like, she didn't think was a friend, but now is a friend. It's very interesting. Then there's, she gets caught by our main male character, Dacre, and then he takes her to this little coastal town to get on a ship to go away, and they grovel. He grovels a tiny bit, and by tiny bit he's like, oh, I feel something for you, and she's like, yes, I do, and that's it. And then the ending happens, which is a surprise, and I don't want to spoil anything for you, but that's all that happened in that book. So no, I don't think it was worth the read. No, I don't think it was worth the hype. I just think it was a middle book. It didn't go anywhere. It was just to show him groveling, but he didn't really grovel all that much. Like, you needed an epic groveling for the end of the first book, and that did not happen. So unfortunately that was a miss for me. I should have just skipped it. Like, my friends were reading it and giving it low ratings, and I was like, you know what, before I just like take their recommendation and just never read it, why don't I read it? Like, who knows, I might like it. You know, I might be in the mood for something super fun, not that serious, anything like that. But there was no development with the fantasy, with the magic system. Like, you saw her magic, but you're still like, what the fuck is that? So there's just like so much to wrap up in the last book. And this book was barely 200 pages on Kindle. It's at 242 pages on Kindle. And of course there's the beginning and the end pages, but like the actual story ends at 86%. So 12% of the end of the book is just back matter, like about Holly Renee, read my other books, what's coming soon, blah, blah, blah. Like, there was nothing. So I don't know. It was bizarre. So no, I would not recommend that. Another book that I read recently that I could not stop talking about is Wisteria by Adeline Grace. This is the conclusion to the Belladonna trilogy. And I didn't know how many books she was writing in this series until in the author's note she said, like, this is the conclusion to the trilogy. I'm so happy about that, blah, 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 blah. I love this book. Now, I did vlog this book for you guys in my last weekly vlog, so you can see all of my thoughts and my kind of like whirlwind with this book, because the first 60% I was like, okay, I like the vibes. It's very atmospheric. It's a perfect book for September, for fall, all of that stuff. They still really hate each other though. I'm like, these two characters like really do not like each other. And then things start to come out after that 50%, 60% mark. And it was so, once again, like romantic, swoon-worthy. I don't know, it was just like, I love reading romance books because of books like this. Like, it's similar to Not Another Love Song, where I just felt like all in with their romance. Like, I just wanted to know everything about them. I wanted to know everything that they were doing. I wanted to hear all of their thoughts about each other, like how romantic they talk about each other. And I personally loved it. I thought it was great. I thought the fantasy world was actually interesting. So if you've read Belladonna and Foxglove, it's a little different with the magic system in this book. And I actually really liked that she did that because they're so different. I mean, they're similar because you see Belladonna in the first book. In Belladonna, you see Death Who Comes. And so it's interesting. But with this book, you get like a little bit more in-depth kind of like what's happening and like how their magic actually works. And I personally enjoyed that. So I love this book. Perfect atmospheric book. It was my first book of September and it was great. Great start to my reading month and I loved it. So yes, this is so worth the hype, but you have to read these books in order. You cannot just read this as a standalone. I want to put that out there. You have to read these in order. Just throwing out there. Another book that I read recently was Haunted Ever After by Jen DeLuca. So I actually received this book from Berkeley and there was an ALC from Libro FM actually. And I will say this was cute. I gave it like 3.5 stars. It wouldn't be something that I would be like, here, read this book right now. It's perfect for fall. Because it gives those vibes. It's spooky. She moves into this house in this coastal Florida town. And she finds that like there's ghosts and like the whole town is like, oh yeah, like there's a mean ghost that lived there. And she's like, I don't think it's mean. So they're trying to like uncover who's, you know, who this woman is, who this ghost is, why is she so mean, all of these things, and like the history of the town and stuff like that. Like, it was cute, but like this book was 10.5 hours on an audiobook and that was just way too long for me. I'm like, we could have cut a lot of stuff out at the beginning. I will say there was some talk about endometriosis and how she can't have kids, and I felt like that was a very, very, very like sprinkled in and just like barely talked about and just like glanced out over in the book, and I didn't like that part of it. So like 3.5, this is not something I would want you guys to like pick up right away. It's not something I would throw at you and be like, read this book for fall, because it's not that book. A book that I would tell you to read for fall is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. Okay, listen, I am someone who, I will jump on the hype train, okay? I will jump on it and read a book, but I may not like it. And this one I thought was so adorable, okay? I read this book, I gave it 4 stars. It was the vibes. The vibes were vibing. For this book, it was the vibes. This book was adorable. It was cute. It kept my attention, and I had the best time with it. I didn't mind that the mystery was kind of lackluster because I don't really read cozy mysteries. Like, I don't read stuff to look for the mystery and try to figure it out before it happens. It was cute. It was freaking cute. I love the small town. I love the characters that were introduced in this book, and I had the best time with it. So would I recommend this one for fall? Yes. If you want a fun, cute audiobook to listen to, put on while you're doing making banana bread, baking, making dinner, like, pick it up. It's so cute. It was only 7 hours or something, but it was so, like, it was the perfect, like, the perfect book. So if I'm telling you between Haunted Ever After and The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, because they are similar in like the whole spookiness way, I would definitely say The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, just because I personally like that one better. But those are all the books that I had to talk about for this Worth the Hype video. You can let me know in the comments down below a book that you read that was worth the hype, or a book that you read that was not worth the hype. Let me know in the comments down below. For an emoji, drop me a pumpkin emoji. Drop me a pumpkin emoji or like a book emoji or something like that for Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I hate pumpkin spice though, but the book is really cute and the cover is really cute, so I'll give it that. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.